Hello and welcome back, everyone, to this ESL Southeast Europe Championship. This is the grand final for Season 6 qualifier, and we have Charzuull up against ProDG. Both players we've seen already so far. Charzuull we just saw win his semi-final, and ProDG we've seen sweeping through the top 16 and top 8 before that. So, what exactly is on the line here, Penguin, for these players?
Okay, so basically what's on the line, if I can use my words correctly, is a spot by winning this game, they will qualify for a spot in a group of 8, 4 invited players as well as 4 people that have won each of their qualifiers. From these players, they will then have a little league type thing where they, I don't know,
A league,
it's
yeah.
basically, yeah, it's a league, all right?
Season 6.
Yeah, season 6, all right, where the top 4 players will then be fighting for a prize pool there. Will qualify to fight for a prize pool of €1,000. So quite a bit of cash. Well, for us, it's a lot of money, at least.
Yeah, yeah.
For us, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, but for these players, we can see both players have chosen to ban Rogue. ProDG has his Paladin, Druid, and Priest that we saw earlier, and Charzuull has his Druid, Warlock, and Priest available to him. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, other way around. ProDG has the Druid, Warlock, and Priest, and Charzuull the Paladin, Druid, and Priest, of course.
yeah. So we saw earlier that ProDG is running the Keleseth Warlock, very fast deck, still very zoo-centric. Meaning they're really going to try and fight for board control. Both, even the Druid as well. Excuse me. They both are decks that look to maintain a lot of board control. So I think that, for Prodigy, just considering, his results, how he's played, and the fact that I just personally feel that the Warlock is better than the Paladin, that he might be able to pick up a win here over Charzuull. But
Yeah,
we don't know.
a concern for Charzuull's lineup could also be the fact that he has Big Priest. He doesn't have Razaka's Priest, as we've come to expect from Priest, so that could be an issue for him. It is a little bit better against Prodigy's Jade Druid, but it could be an issue against the Warlock and the Priest from Prodigy. But we should be able to get into this game soon now. We're just waiting for the players to get ready. Obviously, this is a lot on the line for them. They've gone through this whole 128-man bracket, and this is what it comes down to. It comes down to winning this final and qualifying for the season, which is really a way that they can make their stake on competitive Hearthstone. I know, having spoken to both of these players, they're really trying to make that breakthrough into competitive Hearthstone, and I think, this could be one of the ways to make it into that season 6. Then you're getting more airtime all the time, and you can really show off what you have to bring and start making inroads into earning money and obviously also making a career out of Hearthstone.
Yeah, still very possible, but both these players are going to need to try and get through the first gate here, which is the finals of the first qualifier for season 6 of the ESL Southeast Europe Championship. I will get it eventually without stuttering or being but we'll get there. We'll get there. As we're going to the first game here with
We've got ProDG on the bottom and Charzuull on the top here. With ProDG, not a bad start. He's got a fair bit of cycle here, which is important against the Jade Druid. You really just want to cycle as fast as possible against this Druid in order to make it through.
Yeah. Charzuull, on the other hand, he's got a little bit of ramp, but really missing what he would really want, which is that wild growth for turn 2. However, he does still have at least 2 turns in order to get it, but he does have the ramp in the form of the Maya Keeper as well as the Nourish. So he definitely does have a lot of ramp in hand. And Big Druid versus the Priest. Who is a little bit more favored in here in terms of statistics?
Yeah, we can definitely tell it's definitely Big Druid because of that Earthen Scales. Not really seen much in Jade Druid these days. So we can kind of safely say that it is, in fact, Big Druid. Really, what this matchup comes down to, for the Priests, they want to cycle as fast as possible to get to their damage combo. But if the Druid is able to put together their big plan, which is, get big minions on the board, then it becomes very difficult for the Priest to win. Because A, you run out of Shadow Word deaths, and B, they can then use Earthen Scales to just gain a large amount of armor. So the big Druid is actually quite well favored in this matchup. That's definitely going to go in the favor of Charzuull here, and it could actually be that the Razakis Priest is a little bit of a sticking point for ProDG, as the big Priest is also kind of favored. It definitely seems like Charzuull might have even been targeting that Razakis Priest, with all his decks being pretty good against it.
Yeah, Charzuull, this is where the ramp is going to be so important here for him. Finding the early Maya Keeper here, coining it out, deciding to ramp up. It does unlock the Nourish for him as well, so which means he'll be able to get to that 8 mana really, really soon. And going into the turn thereafter, for his mana turn, Alexstrasza used aggressively can really put the pressure onto ProDG here.
Yeah. Alexstrasza, an aggressive Alexstrasza could be really powerful for him. Ooh, that Radiant Elemental is actually a really good draw here. This means he can actually play Radiant Elemental and then use the Wrath for just 1 mana to deal with this 3 damage and kill this Maya Keeper. I think as the Priest here, you're playing a bit of a different game here when your hand looks like this. You're really trying to aggressively get on board and push your advantage. And I think he also wants to have things like that Gadgets and Auctioneer do a lot of work with some of these cheaper spells that he still has in his hand. So I would really like to see him go for the Radiant Elemental plus the Wrath here. I think it's probably a bit better than just using the Wrath, as I think you need to be a little bit more aggressive with your minions here. There's not the greatest amount of answers that Charzuull could have. It's really just a Wrath of his own, and that would be interrupting his own ramp plan anyway.
Yeah, however, with that Nourish, he would have been able
Yeah.
to still use a Wrath, but I mean, the Wrath just onto a 3/5 is not going to do much. The only best solution to have that is possibly just to cycle.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I was talking about the Wrath in the context of killing the Radiant Elemental if ProDG had chosen to play it. But he's kind of holding it back. I think really maybe wanting to use it for some more resources. But now he just opts to play it here, and it doesn't really make any difference. Like, he really could have just played it his previous turn then if he wants to play it here. It's a little bit of a mistake there from ProDG.
Yeah, and Charzuull, this is where this early ramp is really going to start hurting ProDG. Primordial Drake's going to come down and really start hurting these minions, and it does start to unlock a lot of pressure that is available to him. He can still use the Alexstrasza next turn aggressively, should he wish. And this Primordial Drake is going to contest this Gadgets and auction, that he has.
Yeah, but he is going to be able to use this Binding Heal and the Holy Smite to mean that he's only going to need to use 1 minion here to actually kill this, or need to only, no, sorry, he's going to sacrifice 2 minions, sorry, to kill this Primordial Drake, which, it's not amazing, but at least he's keeping a little bit of a stronger board. Obviously his board is super weak to something like Swipe right now.
Yeah, he is going to be able to use those minions, keeping his shimmering glimmer root alive. However, Charzuull here, do you still go with the aggressive Alexstrasza?
I
I kind
mean,
of feel against it.
I actually don't mind it. The thing is, like, your opponent doesn't currently have much health and that many ways to heal. It could have been quite powerful, but it looks like he wants to go with a slightly more defensive play, lining up into maybe just having something like that Yashaj run away with the board. Although obviously you don't want all your big threats on the board at the same time, or that Shadow Reaper Anduin just keeps getting more and more value.
Yeah. I mean, spreading plague in this kind of matchup as well might not generate as much value as Charles would like, but it might still be something that could just protect his health pool against the minions that ProDG will still have on board.
Yeah, it looks like ProDG here. It was really debating playing the Wild Pyromancer as well. It just put an extra minion on board to help contest this Primordial Drake. And having already seen the other Primordial Drake, it is definitely something he could well consider. But it looks like he's going to hold it back. Maybe, no. I I really like playing it personally. I think it's better just to play it on board. I don't think you get much value from its ability at any point. So just playing it as a 3-2 on board here is, I think, one of the best ways to use it.
Yeah. So Charzuull, getting the ramp now, it's a little bit late since he's already on a 10, but he is going to just take out that Gatistan auctioneer, and he's going to be using Yosage as well. A little
Or
bit of a reverse that would you have liked, though.
yeah, it's a little bit of an unfortunate Yashaj in the sense that that's really not what Charzuull was looking for. But on the other hand, it is a little bit better for the Shadow Reaper Anduin, which he might feel forced to play now. What I would like to see though is I would have liked to see ProDG just go with Shadow of Death on the Yashaj, and then using the and that would have enabled the Pyromancer to just trade into the um, Primordial Drake because of the Pyromancer's ability. Actually getting some value out of that Pyromancer ability, and it also would have allowed him to um, just then take a value trade on the spawns, but it looks like he wants to just get a little bit more aggressive, which is something I can definitely get behind as well. The only concern is that his hand could easily run out of threats soon, and we see Malagos in Charzuull's
Ooh.
Big Druid, which is an interesting inclusion. Not something that I've seen very often in this kind of decks.
Oh, that is pretty interesting. But again, I think it's also just targeting this the Shadow Reaper Anduin, this priest deck, because it's again got 4 health. So out of the range of the Shadow
Yeah.
Reaper Anduin, the Shadow Word Death, as well as Shadow Word Pain. So maybe a very interesting inclusion here. Plus, it makes that Ultimate Infestation a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Obviously, 10 damage ultimate infestation, pretty scary. But I think largely it's just another big dragon. It also makes something like Deathwing Dragon Lord a lot better. So maybe he even cut Deathwing, original Deathwing, for something like Malagos as another dragon that synergizes with Deathwing Dragon Lord. Difficult to say. The Prophet Valen here is quite nice as it actually clears up this minion. If he uses it, I kind of liked using Prophet Valen there to clear up this Alexstrasza, but it looks like he's hoping to actually get Prophet Valen um, off on another turn. The only problem I have with this is A, you're not getting Prophet Valen on the board now, and B, you don't have anything in hand right now that you can actually play in the same turn as that Prophet Valen turn, because chances are your opponent's not going to be playing anything that's Potion of Madnessable. Potion of Madness meant for small minions, and Big Druid doesn't have very many of those.
Really doesn't. The Kun of the Forgotten Kin being picked up here. Now, Charles has a choice. He's going to refresh his mana crystals.
Yeah, I
I
like this.
no. I would have actually liked the armor maybe.
I like the mana crystals, but I would have preferred the Earthen Scales on the Coon itself rather than the Malagos, to be honest. I get that he wants to keep the Malagos alive for the Ultimate Infestation, and he's already seen both Death and Shadow Reaper Anduin, so he doesn't have to worry about that kind of being an issue. But I suppose getting the 1 extra health actually makes a difference against the Shadow Reaper Anduin hero power. But now with the Prophet Valen, there's not a lot he can do here. He doesn't actually have enough mana to kind of, or even just enough cheap spells to really make Prophet Valen work here for him.
Yeah, so I think we might just see the hero power go face here. Because I mean, as you mentioned, he doesn't really have the spells available to him to actually allow this Prophet Valen to do the work that he really wanted to do to try and clear out this Malygos that's going to be so strong. Like a Dragonfire Potion is just going to help him clear this Coon the Forgotten King. But the
Yeah.
issue is that you still have this giant Malygos that doesn't actually get hurt by that Dragonfire Potion at all.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, imagine if ProDG had actually played Valen that last turn to kill the Alexstrasza instead. He would have had such a powerful minion on board that is just so difficult for Charzuull to deal with. And I think it might have been a bit better for him if he'd gone with that Prophet Valen aggressively. Uh, you kind of like it's easy to underestimate the influence Prophet Valen has when he's on the board, but it's actually just so powerful that like very often you kind of just want to more aggressively put him on the board rather than look for that like mind blast combo turn where you just kind of OTK your opponent.
Yeah, so ProDG could possibly get the win, but it's, excuse me, highly unlikely if he was to go
I.
with a. I'm talking very
Oh,
unlikely here.
okay. You're talking like Lyra circular healing into many binding heals.
Maybe Binding Heals
Or
or
infinite circular healing, sure.
yeah, or anything that's going to cost between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
And I think you noticed that this is like the only real way he's going to win.
And there's a card
Oh,
that costs 0, but doesn't really help unless he keeps getting 0 cost minions now, as it's going to use up the rest of his mana. And that is not a 0 cost minion, so he's just going to go ahead and concede here, as Charzuull is going to take the first game here.
yeah, Charzuull's going to take the first game here, and it's one game closer to the for locking himself a position in the group stage that'll be happening after this, taking a lead here 1-0 in this best of 5 fixture.
Yeah, and it's a good lead to have. His lineup definitely seems like it's targeting that Razak's Priest, and it seems like it's working so far. With his big decks and the Murloc deck being specifically kitted out to beat that Razak's Priest. And yeah, he just has his big Priest and his Murloc Paladin left against Charzuull, or against ProDG's Jade Druid and his Zoo. I think the Zoo for ProDG could do pretty well against most of Charzuull's decks, but the Jade Druid is also going to struggle a little bit against those big decks and possibly against the Murloc Paladin as well. Even though we did see ProDG had such a anti-aggro teched Murloc, such an anti-aggro teched Jade Druid that he could definitely it could definitely win against the Murloc Paladin. But I think the big decks, they're gonna be coming to the party big time for Charzuull here.
Yeah, Charzuull looking so strong, and maybe his lineup, as we were discussing, is so tacked against the Razak's Priest, because I don't think he's actually banned it at all. So possibly really targeting it there, and he's going to be playing his big priest now versus the Zoo deck, and it's also potentially not a bad matchup, especially if you can find ways to control the early state of the board from the Warlock.
Yeah, I mean, Big Priest is definitely a lot more of a high roll based big deck than Big Druid. Big Druid's, about ramping and playing the minions fairly from your hand. That was a fairly in inverted commas, because,
Fairly.
you're playing them many turns before they're supposed to be played, but at least you're actually using mana crystals to do it, or the appropriate number of mana crystals. Whereas the priest is really about like your bonds into, or shadow essence, and you bring out the minion earlier from your deck, and then you use eternal servitude to bring back a copy of it. So I imagine he could just go for a full mulligan here. But it looks like he is going to choose to keep that Eternal Servitude, hoping for something useful there. And ProDG managing to find that Killer Sith, something he's been really, really good at finding um, on turn 2, or in this case, in both the Zoo games we've seen, well, recently, the last one and this one, he's able to find it with that coin, and that's going to give him a really powerful start here, as everything he draws from now on is going to be +1/+1, and that's really what the choice to coin the Keleseth is about versus just playing the Keleseth. And now he needs to be smart to play around something like Potion of Madness, one of the best answers that the Zoo can actually have, the Zoo deck can actually, sorry, that the Priest deck can actually have against the Zoo, and he is going to do that. He's going to play the Void Walker here to protect his Flame Imp from, let's say, the Keleseth killing it after being inflicted by that Potion of Madness. But Charzuull does have one of the big cards that he's looking for, and that is the Bonds here. Bonds now with the double Eternal Servitude could be really, really big for him, especially if he manages to find something like that Obsidian statue, or Obsidian
Yeah,
Destroyer that he was able to find earlier.
yeah. Apologies for me disappearing there for a moment. I didn't want my dogs who were barking in the background to probably burst some eardrums here on stream. As ProDG has got a really nice board, and as you mentioned, this Prince Keleseth being here so early is so important for him here. Charzuull, he's got a lot of board that he needs to kind of get rid of here. And as we were talking about the Obsidian statue, the exact minion he needed from this, he's able to find. And with that double Eternal Servitude, things are going to look really good here for Charzuull. Going to be able to keep his life total up really high, as well as getting even more value out of this Obsidian statue.
Yeah, and now it's going to be really difficult for ProDG to find his way. He needs to kind of basically just hope that Charzuull does not have an Eternal Servitude right now. And we can see Charzuull has two. So that means ProDG is going to have to find a way to get through two Obsidian Destroyers now, or Obsidian Statues, sorry. And that's going to be pretty difficult for him.
It's going to be really, really difficult. I mean, there's no way that we can try and undercut this at all. As ProDG looking for the best ways to try and clear out this Barnes as well with the
Yeah.
Eternal Servitudes. I mean, we're going to see
Kind of.
Eternal Servitude into Eternal Servitude.
I kind of like the Soulfire, but I also kind of liked playing it with the Malcazar's Imp this turn, to be honest. But I can see that, he wants to get out the patches, but now he's kind of left himself with a weaker board, honestly. Like, I really don't get this. I think using the Soulfire there was much better on the Barnes. I suppose this does give him some options if that Obsidian statue is resurrected now. He can use the South Sea Captain and the Soulfire to deal with this Obsidian statue, which also means that he gets, we give Charzuull slightly less health because the Soulfire deals with half of it. But that will weaken his board a bit, and it doesn't give him the strongest turn in the world. I mean, he can play Saronite Chain Gang alongside that, which could, absorb the death rattle from the Obsidian statue. But it's kind of awkward here in the ordering that he plays things, because Soulfire, he kind of wants to play whatever else he's going to play this turn before Soulfire, so he doesn't discard it. But he doesn't want to play anything too interesting like that Saronite Chain Gang, and then it gets eaten by the Obsidian Statue's Death Rattle. He much rather wants that to go on, let's say, the Void Walker or the Flame Elemental.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very awkward turn here at the moment for ProDG. And I mean, that Soulfire's got a 1 in 4 of throwing away that Saronite Chain Gang. And you can see he's really trying to weigh up the pros and cons of this kind of play that he's got ahead of himself here. I feel that he has to kind of play the Saronite Chain Gang because it's the 1 minion he doesn't want to lose. He wouldn't mind losing, say, the Flame Imp or the Malcazar's Imp, I think, either.
So it looks like he's actually just going to sacrifice his whole board into this Obsidian statue, heal his opponent back up to full, and then play the Saronite Chain Gang and the Malcazar's Imp? No! He's not playing the Chain Gang. So he just wants to tap here? I am really not a big fan of this. I think he needs to get more aggressively on board here. Once again, he does have an answer to an Eternal Servitude Obsidian statue here, but just it's so weak here, the board that he's actually assembled instead.
Ooh.
And if this Ysera gives something like Ysera's Awakening, that could be massive for Charzuull. Instead, just giving him Nightmare, which can still help him deal a lot of damage. And ProDG here probably going to go with just this Doom Guard and hope to use it to trade into the Ysera, I imagine. And probably hoping to not discard Blood Reaver Gul'dan. That's such an important minion. Or such an important card for him. Oh, like
That is going to hurt him.
it's not something he needs to win the game, but if he is able to bring back the Doom Guard with it later, that can be really powerful. And now he might be considering Soulfire and trading the Malcazar's Imp here, so that he can keep his Doom Guard at full health. But honestly, I like trading the Doom Guard. The only reason to not is to play around Dragonfire Potion a bit, as that would keep the Doom Guard at full health here. And that means it does survive a Dragonfire Potion at least.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he was going for, looking for a way to keep his Doom God alive for a little bit longer here. But unfortunately, no Ysera Awakens here for Charzuull from that Ysera. However, he can summon one back with another Eternal Servitude. However, going to use the Shadow Visions here, and he's going to be taking a Shadow Word Death, which is going to answer this Doom Guard really nicely. He's not going to be seeing that Doom Guard for a long, long time, considering that the Blood Reaver Gul'dan has been discarded from his hand.
Yep. ProDG does have a pretty decent turn here, though. Bone Mare on 7 seems good to me. Looks like he might just go for Despicable Dreadlord and tap, though. Just wanting to make sure he doesn't run out of resources, I suppose, here. Wants to find some better use for that Bone Mare. Especially if he can find it, let's say, as an answer to another resurrected Obsidian statue.
Yeah, Charzuull might even have the option of playing this Shadow Reap Anduin. I don't know if it's the right choice here. I mean, he has just also picked up the Free from Amber, and from something like that, he could get something like the Lich King.
Yeah, that's true. He could also just get an obsidian statue. Um, so I think free from amber does
Yeah.
give more than 8.
No,
Yeah,
no,
8 or more.
no,
No, 8 or more.
no. 8 or
So
more. Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes,
so he
yes.
can get obsidian statue, but instead he's going to just guarantee his obsidian statue with his eternal servitude. One of the reasons I think he wasn't using it earlier was largely because he didn't really wasn't gaining as much of the benefit if he wasn't gaining the health. Here, I think we can see ProDG go for the high roll here, play the Voidwalker, Bone Mare that Flame Imp, and hope either the Flame Imp or the Voidwalker probably die to the Obsidian Obsidian statue. He just at least wants that Dreadlord to be the one that survives. That could definitely be the line he goes for here. He could also just trade both these minions essentially into the Obsidian statue, but that would give Charzuull more health. So I would really like for ProDG to go for the Voidwalker Bone Mare here.
Yeah, he could also just choose to go as wide as possible, but he is going to go with this Bone Mare and going to be throwing it into the Despicable Dreadlord instead. Going to be healing himself, and the Bone Mare is going to go down. So working out pretty nicely here. This Despicable Dreadlord still sitting around here.
Yeah, so he does it this way because he's trying to play around Shadow Reaper Anduin. That's why he's opting to use it on the Despicable Dreadlord here instead. Uh, yeah, it just plays around Shadow Reaper Anduin. It doesn't really play around Dragonfire Potion as much as uh, it, the shit, the Despicable Dreadlord would have survived the Dragonfire Potion anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of his reasoning for doing it in that order, even though it seemed inefficient as he lost kind of 1 damage that turn. But now he has Despicable Dreadlord plus the Saronite Chain Gang this turn, but it looks like he wants to get the tap in and then just go for the Fledgling and the Chain Gang.
Looks like he wants to go as wide on this board as possible, but this Vicious Fledgling can do so much work here for ProDG. Ooh, the silence being picked up though, which is a very nice way to possibly stop this Vicious Fledgling from doing a lot of damage to him.
Yep. Mayor Noggenfogger. Good meme right there. I mean, look, Molten Giants is kind of the obvious option. These are basically all just their stats, except for Noggenfogger. Others, they don't really do anything. So I think just going for the 8/8 makes sense there, even though I'm pretty sure we all wanted him to go for Noggenfogger instead.
I personally would have liked the Noggenfogger there.
So,
But my option is not always the correct option.
no, but it's usually the memeiest.
It is the memeiest. I'll be honest. There's often times where I'm looking for that RNG just because the silence could be have chosen something differently. It could have silenced the Mayor Noggenfogger, and that would have just been a complete waste of the free from amber.
Yeah, so ProDG has a way to clear this without having to sacrifice his whole board in if he wants. He could have used Dreadlord plus the Mortal Coil and then traded a Chain Gang and the Fledgling into it, as that would have actually cleared it up. He wouldn't have got the draw from the Mortal Coil, but it would have been probably the most aggressive play he could make on board. Whereas here, I mean, he has seen one Dragonfire Potion already. He's seen Shadow Reaper Anduin. I suppose he's kind of betting on Charzuull kind of running out of board clears here. But it looks like
Oh,
Charzuull is finally able to draw one of the Obsidian statues. We've seen 3 so far, but he hasn't drawn any. So there's at least 2 more left in his deck, and he's gonna be able to play that here if he wants. Oh yeah, Charzuull still has the Shadow Reaper Anduin in hand. Sorry, he hasn't actually played it yet.
yeah, he hasn't played it just yet. But the first obsidian statue being drawn here for Charzuull, which means again he can just generate so much health as well as getting another death rattle, just clearing out more of this board from ProDG. No more eternal servitudes available to him though, and something like free from amber could still, if he's running a second one, could still summon him another obsidian statue though.
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. Also, his second Shadow Essence could pull the second Obsidian statue from his deck, but the Obsidian statue here is really nice because it's gaining him a lot of health, and that's an interesting decision here. Putting the Nightmare on it means that it's going to be dying, but now if ProDG wants to attack into it, it's going to be um, giving him, or basically healing him back up to full. Uh, I'm not entirely sure I like the Nightmare choice. It dies now at the start of his turn. So basically, what ProDG is just going to do here is develop the board and pass, and now all the Obsidian statue didn't really get any value. The only value it got was on that Death Rattle, and that, you know, because ProDG was able to just develop a wide board, that Death Rattle didn't really do much.
Yeah, didn't do much there at all. As Charzuull, I think, was just doing that more just to try and stall it out a little bit here. I think he's going to go with the Shadow Reaper Anduin. He does still have heal in his hand in the forms of the that greater healing potion, but he will be able to start just doing a lot of damage here to his opponent. The opponent being on 10
Yeah,
health, 2, 4, 6.
yeah,
He does have lethal.
yeah. I like this. I like this.
No, he
Uh,
doesn't.
yeah, it's not quite lethal because he doesn't have the 0 mana hero power. But I like this choice to go a little bit more aggressive. His hand is pretty dead right now. The pint-sized potions really do nothing right now. He has to draw something like Shadow Word Horror in order to make them actually have any kind of reasonable effect. So he wants to just get some value out of them by at least developing the Shadow Reaper Anduin and being able to use them for their hero, for their ability to sort of reactivate the Void form at the very least.
Yeah. So ProDG is going to just start pushing damage here. Face going to really start putting, Charzuull really low. I mean, he's on 15. He's saying that was a mistake. I don't know if it really. I think it was a little bit.
Um, I think he missed his ordering there. He played the Arceus Veteran after attacking with all his minions, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, does he not have
So
lethal now? 2, 3, 4, 5.
so that's four. So it's four with the Holy Smite and the hero power. Um, another two with the Shadow Word Pain. But that's costing him a lot of mana.
Oh,
6 mana. Uh, yeah, I think it's just short. As far as I can count, he can do 3 hero powers plus Holy Smite, and he needs to do 4 hero powers plus Holy Smite, and 4 hero powers is 8 mana alone. Never mind the fact that he would still have to actually get in the yeah,
he
like,
has to use the. I think he has to use the greater healing potion
yeah,
here
he has
as
to use the
well.
Greater Healing Potion, definitely. It's the only way he survives. On board at the moment, there is 17 damage, so he's dead on board if he doesn't use the Greater Healing Potion. And I think maybe he thought he had lethal and now is realizing he didn't. Um, but it's probably good enough. Just using this Greater Healing Potion here, the Doom Guard's going to come down. That's not going to be enough damage. And now Charzuull will definitely have lethal next turn. It's just going to take him 2 hero powers with that Holy Smite. And that's going to be enough to allow him to move up 2-0 in this series. Um,
I
ProDG
think.
here, he's going to look to see sort of how much damage can he realistically do, but we know it's not going to be enough to kill Charzuull here, sort of a total of full 5 damage short.
Yeah. However, the Doom God is going to be able to push 6 damage here because of
Oh
it
yeah,
being buffed
4
by the
damage.
Prince Keleseth. So he's only short of a Soulfire. So if he's running a second one, he could possibly go for that
Oh,
potential
yeah?
chance of actually tapping out into it.
Yeah, you're right. He could tap for Soulfire after playing the Doom Guard. That is the one possibility he does have for lethal. Unfortunately, it's not like he didn't have space to play that Malkazar's Imp, so this is what it's come down to. Tap for Soulfire.
Oh,
No. Just a Bone Mare, and that's not going to be enough here as Charzuull just needs to play one spell plus that hero power, and it will be lethal. But
yeah.
ProDG at that point, he kind of knew it was going to be lethal there, and now Charzuull just has his Murloc Paladin left, remaining against all of ProDG's lineup. And we did see ProDG manage to make a reverse sweep comeback in his top 8 game,
Yeah.
but he's going to need to make another comeback now, or Charzuull is going to be able to run away with this series and clinch that qualifying spot 3-0.
Yeah, so Charles are looking really good here. He's just one game away from qualifying for season 6 of the ESL Southeast European Championship. So he's looking pretty strong here at the moment. And as you said, he's only got his Murloc Paladin left. It's still very possible for him to win this. But ProDG did reverse sweep earlier on against the Paladin, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
No, it was against the Druid.
Okay, yeah,
I
it was
think
against the Druid.
that he managed to reverse sweep. Yeah.
Yeah, my memory is not that good, especially when it starts getting to 8 o'clock at night. However, Charzuull is up against the Warlock of ProDG again, and he's going to be locking in his final deck here, being this Murloc Paladin.
Yeah, and this is a matchup that is really just all about the board. We've seen that quite a lot today, as there's quite a lot of these decks now with the Tempo Rogues, the Murloc Paladins, the Zoo decks, the Shamans. All of them are really just about fighting for board. And this is a matchup that is uh, it's very dependent on these early turns. And right now, Charzuull has a pretty decent start, but he's not he kind of doesn't have the best follow up. And ProDG here has also a really, really good start with this coin. He can kind of decide how he wants to do things here. I like playing the Voidwalker here and just holding the coin for possibly using coin South Sea Captain next turn. That seems like a pretty powerful turn. The zoo is slightly favored here, but and that's largely because it does have these more consistent, strong early turns.
Yeah, we're going to see a coin here of the South Sea Captain, and is going to some of the patches here as well for ProDG. So
And this
he's got a
is
way of clearing the Tidecaller nicely.
Yeah, it's such a good use of patches, managing to clear off that buffed up Tidecaller, and he still leaves the Voidwalker contesting this Grimscale Chum. So now Charzuull not looking in the greatest position. As we said, he doesn't really have the follow-up to his two early one-drops. He had to play a one-drop on turn 2, and now he's just playing a one-drop and hero powering on turn 3, and that's really not the kind of start that you want. As the paladin in this game.
Yeah, he does have one thing going for him that as long as he can get 1 minion to stick around for at least a turn or two, he's going to be having the Blessing of Kings plus the Cobalt Scalebane into the Spike Ridge Siege, all nice in order in his hand as well. So as long as he can get 1 minion to stick, hopefully things are going to be looking pretty good here for him.
Yeah, and Charzuull there, he debated trading into that Voidwalker for quite a while, and ultimately I think he chose to trade because he was worried about the oh man, I just forgot the potion's name. Blood Fury potion, which is buffs demons. Well, it gives demons +3/+3, or all other minions it just gives +3 attack. So that's something I think he was worried about there. And here, Charzuull's managed to get that minion to survive, as you mentioned, and now the Blessing of Kings is helping him a lot, because now all of a sudden his curve becomes a lot better with that Scalebane and Spikered Steed. But ProDG, because of the nature of Zoo, he has so many options here. All these different one drops, as well as the South Sea Captain, and he can even just tap whenever he wants. And this Arceus Veteran also lines up really well here.
Yeah, so you could tap, or you could have played the other South Sea Captain. But this way he actually puts more damage on board by doing it the way that he's just done here. But the Rallying Blade is going to at least deal with this Flame Imp. And now the choice is of whether he just hero powers or he plays this Hydrologist. I'm sort of leaning again to the side of just hero powering.
Yeah, hero power is quite tempting here. Obviously, it neatly contests this Arceus Veteran anyway, and it does leave you in a pretty decent position. The Hydrologist, though, could give him a decent secret. Something like Redemption could have been good to go with the Cobalt Scalebane next turn. But Getaway Kodo might be his next best option. I think that's really the reason he wants to play this Hydrologist here is he doesn't really see a turn when he's going to play it in the future, because he wants to play that Getaway Kodo, or because he wants to play the Scalebane next turn.
Yeah, and I think, rather playing the Hydrologist now, we actually have the opportunity where, against not playing it in the near foreseeable future, is probably much better, as ProDG is going to go wider on the board with the Saronite Chain Gang as well as the Fireflies there.
Yeah, and Cobalt Scalebane here, always a powerful minion, but not really as powerful when it's on its own on a board. 5 mana 5/5, not bad, but when you're not getting that end of turn effect that's buffing your minions, it loses a lot of its power.
Yeah. However, there is getaway coder available for him as well, and I think we might just see him play that Spike Ridge Siege on the Saranite or the Saranite Chain Gang. Listen to me, the Cobalt Scalebane. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where just the Cobalt Scalebane being a 5/5, well, this was difficult for ProDG to deal with because he's been tapping for so many of these turns. He's lost a lot of tempo, a lot of mana he could have spent putting more minions on board. He's actually just spent accruing resources, and now all of a sudden he's losing that tempo advantage he had earlier because this Cobalt Scalebane is able to do so much work. And now with the Spike Ridge Steed, it's a pretty difficult minion to get through here for ProDG.
Yeah, ProDG has got this Prince Keleseth that he's been able to pick up, but still not going to be able to burn through this Cobalt Scalebane. And Charzuull can follow up with another big taunt minion in the form of that Tyrion Forging.
Yeah, Tyrion is obviously a really powerful minion and pretty good against Zoo. Even though Zoo does have a lot of ways to, let's say, pop the Divine Shield cheaply, the weapon that it gives and the fact that you have to spend so many minions trading into it is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Ooh, and there's the Rallying Blade as well. So Charzuull has got a few options here. You could decide to actually go with the Cobalt Scalebane and the Rallying Blade. That way he'll be able to clear out one or two of these rather bigger minions that is present on the board.
I really like Scalebane plus Rallying Blade here and just going face. Your opponents on 18 HP, you can put them down to 11 or 8 if you want with the weapon attacking face too. But it looks like he's going to clear off the South Sea Captain and then just push face with the Scalebane. And now with the Scalebanes buffing each other, all of a sudden they're really huge and really threatening lethal next turn. And now ProDG has to get through both the Scalebane and the Stegodon in order to get at the second Scalebane. So, he has to deal a total of 20 damage here with his board, which is not actually possible in order to actually kind of clear up everything.
Yeah, not going to be able to clear up everything here, as well as this that Saranite Chain Gang that is in the hand here for ProDG. And the getaway coder is just going to bring back that Cobalt Scalebane. And again, we might just see the Cobalt Scalebane come down here.
Yeah, and I mean, the Saranite Chain Gang was an important draw from ProDG because it just kept him alive on board at least. Especially with being buffed up, it means that it also just survives a weapon attack and which means he has to use both the weapon and the Stegodon into it. But now, ProDG, he's still got that Scalebane on board, he's got the Tyrion, and really, Charzuull. And really, what can ProDG do? This looks like it's going to be a 3-0 win for Charzuull here in this final. The Romanian player looks like he might finally be somebody that can best ProDG here, who is from Bulgaria, and take it home for his region.
Yeah, I don't see any real way for ProDG to come back into this game here. You'll be able to at least clear that. Yeah, no, that's not going to help him at all. If he was able to get something like
Soulfire would have been able to just keep him alive. He could have Mortal Coiled and then Soulfired the 4/2, and that would have meant he would have survived on 1 HP, but how he ever wins from that scenario, I'm not sure. And yeah, that's a big congratulations to Charzuull there, who takes a 3-0 win against ProDG. We saw ProDG come back in our quarterfinals, but unable to make the comeback that time. And it's going to be a big win for Charzuull there. A Romanian player going into our main season, qualifying from our first qualifier today. And if you want to find out information on any of the following qualifiers, you can just type !qualifier in chat, or you can also just type !commands to find any of the commands from our bots in chat.
Yeah, MoveBot is a fantastic little bot to have all these commands there. And if you want to find out any more information about this tournament besides using the !qualifier, you can also follow ESLSEC on Facebook as well as Twitter. Twitter, you'll be able to find them at ESLSEC, and on Facebook at ESL Southeast Europe Championship. You'll be able to find them all them there. If you have any questions, message them, drop them tweets. They'll be able to get back to you. If you haven't entered the giveaway yet, if you are living in the Southeast Europe region, you can type in !giveaway, follow the instructions there from the link, and you could possibly find yourself winning an ESL 2.0 Pro chair. Very
Yeah.
comfortable, very pretty chair as well.
Yeah. And also, if you want to give us any feedback, or you can also find out when the stream is going live by following us. We'll be doing all the English coverage for this season. So if English is your preferred language and you want to keep up with what's happening in the Southeast Europe Championship, then you can find us. You can find myself at dib_gaming on Twitter, and you can find Penguin over there on at the Penguin ZA on Twitter.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude our coverage here of the first qualifier for Season 6 Hearthstone of the ESL Southeast European Championship. Hope you had a great evening here with us. Tomorrow we'll be back with qualifier number 2, and then next week, Saturday and Sunday, we are going to be bringing qualifier 3 and 4, leading up into the final stages of this tournament. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We'll be seeing you here tomorrow, round about at about 11:12 Central European time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. Cheerio. See you tomorrow.
Bye.